Welcome to the worst of the best podcast. You wanted the best. Well, they didn't freaking make it. So here's what you get. From Canada, Ryan and
Jason. Welcome to another episode of the Worst of the Best podcast. I'm your host, Ryan, and with me today we have returning guest co-host. Oh, wait, no, it's my brother, Jason. Jason,
hey,
welcome
Ryan.
back.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Tell the folks here where you were for the last couple of weeks. Why weren't you on the show? What were you doing?
Yeah, so I did a road trip with the main purpose, actually, of going down to the Grand Canyon to hike. People may be familiar or may not be. There's a hike in the Grand Canyon called the Rim to Rim. And you start from either the north or the south side, but mostly it's typically from the north side. And you hike down from the north side. It's 5,000. Oh, no, the north side is 6,000 plus feet into the canyon. So you descend 6,000 feet. You hike along there's a small river. Maybe it seems like a small river, Bright Angel Creek, I believe. Hike along that for a bit until you hit the Colorado River. And from the Colorado River back to the south rim, you descend 6,000 feet into the Grand Canyon. And then you ascend just over 5,000 feet, just over a mile, back up to the top where the south rim is. And
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it
How
was
long did it
challenging.
take?
I think total is 14 and change. Moving, like actual moving time, it was 12 hours and change. It was a full day.
And
Yeah.
you're the tender age of 50. Let's keep that in mind, folks. This is Jason, the age of 50 years old. Hope you don't mind me exposing your age.
No, not at all. No, I did actually trick a couple people who thought I was in my 30s.
There you go.
Humble brag there.
Sure.
But
You take care of yourself. And can people see these pictures on, is your Instagram or their Facebook only?
yeah, I do have two Instagram accounts. One is just my social one where it's just kind of me and often like a selfie or whatever. That's my most social one.
Check the show notes, folks, for Jason's Instagrams, and you can see his handsome face and also his Grand Canyon photos. It's really quite incredible photos.
Photography is a hobby of mine. So I did bring my good camera. It's not just cell phone footage.
Right.
So on my other Instagram account is more just my photo hobby photos because I don't always like to spam my social feed with just like pictures of mountains or streams or whatever, birds that I take pictures of. So that one's more just my photography hobby pictures. And now that I'm home, I'm starting to go through my pictures and edit. I traveled 6,300 kilometers in my car. I went to not just the Grand Canyon, but I went to Canyonlands National Park, Capitol Reef National Park, Goblin Valley State Park. Then I headed north. I went to Fish Lake National Park. Then I went to the Grand Tetons, and then I went to Yellowstone, and then I came home. So I think I got all the parks that I went into. And then I also did that Moab rope swing jump, which is a 200 plus foot free fall into a canyon in Moab. And that was pretty cool too.
That is impressive, Jay. Good job. Again.
Yeah, it was a nice time away, unplug, and just enjoy my time.
Awesome. Yeah. So again, folks, check out the show notes for the Jason socials there, so you can see those photos. I think they're well worth the gander. Sorry, is what I meant to say. And yeah, awesome.
I appreciate that, Ryan. I appreciate that.
Oh, sure. The 5 people that listen to our show might jump on and you might get a couple extra views.
Probably all the people listening already followed me on Instagram.
Probably our mom.
My mom.
Yeah.
That's about it.
All right. This is exciting. I'm excited for this episode, Jay. This is a fun one. I think it's another fun one for us. We had a couple dark ones with my guests. The one you just heard, folks, before this one was selfies, incriminating selfies, which some of those selfie stories involved some murder and mayhem. So this one's a little bit lighter, a little bit of a lighter episode. Here we go. So this episode is called False Beliefs About Common World, quote unquote, facts. So these are things that I know I've been guilty of, and I will fully admit where I have been guilty thinking this thing or this concept was a truth enough to even, put some money on it kind of truth. Jason, have you ever been told that lightning never strikes the same spot twice? You've heard that before, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you hear that, do you think to yourself, that sounds reasonable? Or do you go, that's an absolute lie?
I haven't really gone into a deep thought about it, but
Okay. Food for
okay.
thought. Food for thought.
Okay, I won't
Okay.
dissect it then. Yeah.
Yeah, not yet. We'll decide to later. Or that going out in the cold can give you cold. You've heard that before, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure to some degree you may have believed it, or some of our listeners feel that there's some sort of connection. Again, we're going to discuss those 2 in particular and 8 other ones. So these are just a couple of the mistaken ideas that have become widely accepted in our understanding of the world. They've been handed down through the years and have become so ingrained in our thinking that we treat them as undeniable facts. But today, Jason and I, we are going to clear up these misunderstandings and give you, the listeners, the real scoop. We're going to tackle a variety of myths, from things we've misinterpreted in nature to beliefs that have been around for a very long time. Some of these misconceptions have been with us for centuries, passed down from generation to generation, and the buck stops here. No longer will this false information continue thanks to our podcast.
Yes, we are the fact checkers.
We
of
are the
these,
fact checkers.
Myths.
Others are the result of more recent false information. Ooh. So hold on tight, listeners, because we're about to reveal the truth behind these 10 common misunderstandings about our world. And you might even be surprised to find out that some of the things you believed for years are, in fact, completely untrue. All right, here got number 10, deserts. Now, when you think of deserts, you probably picture scorching sand dunes under the blazing sun, right? Here's a surprising fact, Jason. Not all deserts are hot. In reality, a desert is defined as a place that gets less than 10 inches or 254 millimeters of rain each year, no matter how hot or cold it is. So take Antarctica, for example. Now, this I did not know. So take Antarctica, for example. We often think of Antarctica, yes, it's cold tundra, but it's not just is it a cold tundra, it's actually the largest desert on our planet. Did you ever know that?
I did not know that it was the largest desert. I knew that it was considered a desert, that it is actually very dry. I don't know the landmass, but I guess it's a continent, so it's got to be huge.
Pretty big.
So
It's
that
I'll tell you exactly how big it is, Jay.
okay.
5.5 million square miles, or
S-
14.2 square kilometers.
I wonder what the second biggest one is. Like the
Oh,
Sahara Desert, I would maybe guess.
the-
That seems to be the most famous. Like if you were to, off the top of your head, what would be
Right.
the
Often
people might
that's the
suggest
desert
would
everyone
say
talks about,
Sahara?
the Great Sahara
Yeah.
Desert. Yeah, in the movies. And so the reason, just like you said, Jay, the reason why it earns the title of desert is because it receives very little rainfall and it lacks much plant life. But instead of sand and heat, Antarctica is covered with snow and ice, with temperatures averaging from 14 Fahrenheit or negative 10 Celsius on the coast. So not too bad, minus 10
Yeah,
on
that's
average.
actually-
Yeah.
yeah.
But to a bone chilling negative 76 Fahrenheit or negative 60 Celsius inland. That's crazy. So other cold places like certain areas in the Arctic and high mountains also qualify as deserts due to their low rainfall. The next time you think of deserts, remember that they're not always about heat and sand. Icy landscapes like Antarctica prove that deserts can be just as cold and dry as they are hot and dusty. So is this one where desert is defined as a place that gets less than a certain amount of rain a year? Is this a trick, or is this us incorrectly using desert all this time? What do you think?
I think it's just in ignorance or laziness to when we see desert, we just go to the default sand,
Right.
heat. We're not thinking technically all the time, right? But if that's the definition, that makes sense. A lack of rainfall.
There you go.
So
That's right. It lacks rain.
I didn't realize that there was an actual measurement, like 10 inches.
Well, I guess it
and
has to be a
less.
certain amount. It can't be.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
everywhere it rains at some point. So I guess, what defines this as a desert is, this area gets less than. And we know there's many deserts where you were. You were near probably some deserts.
Yeah, most of my trip was southern Utah, northern Arizona. I actually absolutely loved that landscape. Really enjoyed the heat and the sunshine and all the variety of landscapes that provides. That's fascinating to me. Yeah, and while I was away, it turned fall here. I come back. I was like,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Within 2 weeks, it went from I left decent weather, and it's not like it's bad weather, but wow, it cooled right off, and we're right into fall here. It's a sad shock and reality that I'm facing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Yeah.
All right. What do you got for us, Jay, for number 9?
Yeah. So diamonds, not as rare as you might think. Diamonds often get painted as the super rare, precious gems that scream luxury and wealth. But let's dig into the truth here, and it might surprise you. Back in the 30s and the 40s, the De Beers Diamond Company played a big role in shaping our view of diamonds as these incredibly rare and valuable things. They pretty much controlled the whole diamond market, carefully managing how many diamonds were out there and making us think they were in short supply. They kept their hold on their global diamond market strong, even into the 2000s. Now there's the twist. De Beers' own researchers think that the world's supply of natural diamonds is going to run out in 20 to 30 years. But the interesting part is we figured out how to make diamonds in labs that are just as good as the ones dug up from the earth without all the mining. So while diamonds aren't as common as other gemstones, the idea that they're super duper rare is mostly because of marketing tricks in the early 1900s. Were you familiar with this marketing
Yes.
trick? Yeah, I
Yes,
was
it
as
was.
well.
Yeah, this was one, unlike the desert one, I was tricked by Antarctica, so I will tell the truth there. But I didn't know the details. But if you were to ask me before our scouring of the internet to put this list together, I would have told you yes. I knew that the idea of diamonds and their rarity or their preciousness of a diamond in the rough and all these things and how they're made, they're not as rare at all. In fact, I knew that they're actually quite worthless in many ways. The value we put, it's a value we've created as humans because just like this is, we can now create them better and look better and more whatever it is, a diamond, the carat level or whatever that is can be created artificially. I find a pearl more amazing. I think it's always a
Mm.
pearl. You think about the clam is shaping that granule of sand for all that time. And then you have to open up every clam to find a pearl. Pearls, you would think they'd be more expensive than diamonds, would they not? Or
Yeah, they're probably not. But I also wonder, are they able to manufacture pearls now? I mean,
I,
I'm going into. I feel
I
like
guess so. If it's
that's a
just sand,
process
if
that
it's
could
just
be,
sand, it's the
but
same
it's like
idea.
their mucus and stuff. I don't
No,
know.
I don't know what it's added to the sand, but it's my understanding with pearls is it gets stuck in the clam's
Yeah,
area, or I don't know, is that their mouth? I don't know. And they roll it around with whatever, it becomes like a crystal or like a
yeah,
ball. It's weird.
yeah.
So I guess they could
So
probably artificially do that too with sand and whatever else, but still.
I'm wondering, can they not make rubies and emeralds and any of
Jewels
these
suck.
precious?
Are you impressed by jewelry? Are you? Do you look at jewels and diamonds and rubies and emeralds? Oh wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, the bling? No, not. If I saw somebody walking down with an emerald earrings or something,
Would you be like, wow, that's
I wouldn't go like, this person is really amazing. It is a manufactured perception of what seems to be worth.
it is man-made. We have put
Yes,
a value on this, and the value is just what we've said it is. It's just like money in general is. It's all
yes,
pretend. It's all pretend. Nothing is not. It does.
I know, I know
$100
it
bill
is.
doesn't mean anything. It's weird, but the whole idea of finance and money exchange, it's all man-made. It's crazy. This world's dumb. We're all dumb humans. This whole concept of this planet is ridiculous, and diamonds are part of that ridiculousness. Okay. All right, I gotta clear my throat here. I'm going through a cold right now, folks. So bear with me if my voice.
Oh, is it
sounds bad.
because you've been in cold weather?
We're gonna get to one of those
I
about the
know.
cold. Yeah, don't spoil it. And we should also say for the worst pick, I think for me, the worst pick would be now these are the best myths that people believe in that they think are true. So that's what this list is. So could we say which one's the worst offender? Maybe like which one is it? Or
I was trying to figure out how to do this.
I
I'm gonna
got
have
one. This is mine. I can't believe people believe this. This is the one that I can't believe people fell for this. Really? You really thought that? Like, which one is really? The other ones are more, I get it. I get why people might think that.
Mm,
So, yeah, if you want
okay,
to
well,
rate it as okay, I can see why people might think that, i.e., desert. It's reasonable. I think most people tell you a desert. Draw me a picture of the desert. I would probably 99 out of 100 people would draw a palm tree with sand and the sun and heat. There might be that one nerd who goes, "Oh, yeah, I know about the Antarctica."
Yeah, and they're like
So I think
draw a
that's a
picture
good,
of a
yeah.
snowman.
So that's a good example. So let's say the one that is the really people really fell for that, or they should have known better. Okay. So that's a good example. I think number 10 would go without saying that's not the worst because even I was tricked by that falsity. Okay. So number 8, the forbidden fruit. Ooh, what's this one about? Jason, you and I, we went to church in our younger years, and you might remember the story of Eve picking that fateful fruit in the Garden of Eden. And it's often shown as an apple in countless paintings, movies, and tales. It's so stuck in our heads that it's hard to imagine the fruit being anything else other than an apple. But here's the twist: the Bible never says that the fruit from the tree of knowledge was an apple. It just mentions, quote, a fruit. The idea that it was an apple likely comes from the Latin translation of the Bible where the word malice was used. Now, malice can both mean evil and apple, which led to this connection over time. I like the idea that it's malice. No, this M-A-L-U-S. That's the Latin, which of course malice, M-A-L-I-C-E in English is the same. So I like that. It means evil. So they took the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so Eve took the apple that was evil. The fruit that was, see, look, I said apple. And yeah, we have to call it Adam's apple, right? That sort of thing. That's what we call it, Adam's apple for males, the throat. So again, it's not an apple. This confusion happened over time. By the Middle Ages, this myth was firmly established, even though it didn't come directly from the Bible. Some smart folks have suggested that the real fruit could have been a fig, grape, a pomegranate, or some other fruit commonly found in the Middle East, or the cradle of civilization. Despite these guesses, we're still in the dark. Yeah, for a lot of reasons why we might be in the dark. But despite these guesses, we're still in the dark about what forbidden fruit actually was eaten by Eve. So even though we see the apple as a symbol of temptation and sin today, the true identity of the fruit from the Bible story remains a mystery. Now, maybe it could have been an apple. Maybe it could have been an apple, but we don't know.
Maybe that's why they use the word malice, because it was an apple.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think of that one? Did you know that? I think again in our religious years, I think even in our church that we grew up in, I think we even said it was we didn't really focus on never calling it an apple. I think that was something even I knew as an amateur
I always
Bible
felt
scholar.
like it was more of a symbolic gesture. I didn't put a lot of weight into what it actually was. So for me, this is just like a shoulder shrug, to be honest. I never put any weight into what it was. I never thought of what it might be. It was never a point of interest in my mind.
But you have heard the story of it being an apple. You wouldn't be blown away if you saw Eve eating an apple in a painting.
Well,
What's she
no.
holding there? Yeah.
Yeah. No, not at all.
So the big twist here, folks, is that the Bible doesn't say it's an apple. That's the idea here is the apple has been used as the most commonly depicted fruit that Eve took. And yeah. And Donald brings up a good point in our chat here. He says, no one ever has misinterpreted the Bible. He's saying that I'm crazy for thinking otherwise. That's right.
That's
Donald.
awesome.
No one's ever done that. So Donald does agree. It's pretty cool. He never knew it was an apple. There you go. We're educating the masses. This is what we're doing, Donald. This is what we're doing for everyone. This is our job today. All right, Jay, you've got number 7.
Yeah, right on. This is the cold weather. Does it actually cause colds?
Yeah, I've got a cold right now. So tell me, Jason,
what's the temperature? What's the temperature been?
It's been an average of 22, 23 Celsius still here.
So that's really nice weather, actually.
It's beautiful temperature right now.
Yeah, okay.
So the cold did not give me a cold. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Tell me why.
Okay. Feeling chilly? You might think that it's a surefire way to catch a cold, but the truth is a bit different. While many folks believe that being out in the cold or getting wet can make you sick, cold weather itself doesn't actually cause illnesses like the common cold or the flu. The real troublemakers here are viruses, not the low temperatures. Here's the deal. Cold viruses find it easier to spread in dry indoor environments, which are more common during cold weather when we're all huddled indoors. These viruses don't float around the cold air waiting to pounce on unsuspecting victims. Nope, they're passed from one person to another through a close contact like sneezing and handshakes. So when you're out in the cold and your nose starts running, it might feel like you're getting sick, but it's really the viruses you need to watch out for. Next time you're shivering in the cold, remember it's not the temperature that's making you sick. It's those sneaky viruses that you've got to be cautious about.
I wish Dr. Fauci was here to help educate us on colds and viruses, that would be great.
And how you pass them along.
That's right. I think if he was here, we'd get the proper information that we needed, and he would definitely nip any misinformation in the bud right away. He would never propagate or say anything that was untowards the public. That's Dr. Fauci. If you're listening, come on the show at any time and let us know how viruses are spread. Put on a jacket, you're going to catch a cold. We heard that all the time growing up as a kid, and I think I believed that for years. Now, later in my life, I don't think I would have just come out and said it's just viruses. That makes sense. I actually have my own kind of theory. So they're saying that because it's cold outside, people are inside more and they're closer together. You're not outdoors as much, so people are in their houses more. They're in the schools come back. So basically, that's the idea. The viruses are spreading because of touch and door handles and sneezing, and that's how the viruses are spread. But in the summertime, and you're out of the school, you're outside more. I used to think because you were cold, this was my unscientific theory, but I thought it made sense. It was you're shivering, so your body's focusing on trying to stay warm. That the immune system or the fighting effects of the virus are weakened because your body's trying to keep warm.
You're trying to close the loop in your mind as to, but it makes sense in that in the winter, when you are indoors, it can be cloudier, the impact of the sun. So your vitamin D levels, if you believe in any type of healthy lifestyle interventions, vitamin D levels are lower when the sun is lower or your sunlight exposure is less. If you're indoors, your vitamin D levels will be less because we get the vitamin D naturally through the exposure to sun. So in some ways, what you're saying makes sense. If you're cold, you're exposed to cold weather, which means there's less sun. And so your autoimmune response will be hindered because your vitamin D levels will be naturally lower in the wintertime. Also, I just think just cyclically, viruses, they themselves do better in cooler, drier temperatures. So
Yeah, I
like
wonder about that too. Is do they function better in a colder environment than the
I
heat?
think I think the heat kills them or it's harder for them to survive, which seems counterintuitive, but from my understanding is that's why during the flu season, it's always the fall winter time that they go get your flu shot or whatever it might be.
Right. It does seem like it's
Because
always winter time. We're getting our flu shots and people are getting
yeah,
colds and sneezing, which I have right now. Okay. All right. Christine brings up a good point here. She said, I feel there are more airborne viruses in the summer and contact viruses in the winter, like cold and flu. Okay. Again, I think it's because of that close proximity that we are with people. We're indoors more and bumping into each other more. And she also said that some germs are killed by heat and some are killed by the cold. So it goes both ways. There you go. And I rarely get sick. I've actually feeling okay, but definitely I have a cold. The family has it, and the wife, the kids. We're all in the same house. We all got the same cold. All right. Wish me luck. Number 6. Okay. Lightning. Now, despite what many believe, lightning can and does strike the same place more than once. In fact, it often targets the same spot repeatedly, especially under the right conditions. Lightning is naturally drawn to the tallest object in an area, and that often becomes a preferred target. Take the Empire State Building, for instance. It's struck by lightning multiple times every year. Other tall structures, whether they're natural like towering trees and mountains, or man made like radio antennas, also tend to attract lightning. While the likelihood of a specific spot being struck twice by lightning is low, like if you're in a soccer field, let's say, and there's a lightning strike in the soccer field, the chance of lightning hitting that same spot again is unlikely. And I think that's where people, and that's how I thought of it, is if you're out in a thunderstorm, the chance of you yourself getting struck by lightning twice in the same spot is unlikely. Structures that stand tall and unchanging are frequently hit multiple times given the right circumstances. The next time, Jason, you're seeking shelter during a thunderstorm, keep in mind that the tree that just got struck might very well become a lightning target again. The idea that lightning never strikes the same place twice, it's definitely a shocking myth. Now, are you guilty of believing that lightning doesn't strike twice? We hear that all the time. Lightning doesn't strike twice.
it's probably something I hadn't really thought of. But when you did the introduction and you said that, and then I critically thought about it, that doesn't make any sense because that's the whole reason there's lightning rods on buildings or
Yeah.
so that the lightning will hit the lightning rod before it hits something else that's, vital to a structure or a power grid or something else. A little bit of critical thinking quickly would take that away. But the idea, I think, is just more of a saying of a rare event. I think it's more of a saying than it is an actual scientific fallacy.
Are you comfortable in a thunderstorm outside?
I love it.
I get nervous as heck.
Really?
I think I have a fear of lightning, and it's gotten worse over the
Really?
years. Yeah, it's pretty true. And I like lightning from a distance. It's one of those things. If I'm on the porch, back when we visited our cousins in the Okanagan in
Yeah.
British Columbia, and the thunderstorm was away, I like that. There was a couple thunderstorms over our house this summer. The lightning, or the lightning and the thunder together were over our house, and the crack that some of these thunder strikes made, it might just be, I don't know. Anyways, I have a legit fear. If I'm outside during a thunderstorm, I'm running indoor. I cannot be
And
outside.
wow. Okay,
No.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
like
just I like
that's hilarious. Man, I'd run towards it.
well,
So you must have some type of DNA trauma passed down from a Neanderthal relative that
yeah.
must have had a traumatic experience with thunder and lightning.
I don't know what it is. It's in my DNA. It's just like you can't explain it. People,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
know.
any
Yeah.
fear. Just get over it. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Some people are afraid of heights, which is me as well. Like whatever the fear might be, spiders, bees, heights, birds. There's some people who are afraid of birds. Like literally are fearful. Like,
Yeah.
what's the matter? It's just a bird. You can't help the fears that you have. They're in you. I don't know why, but maybe there was some past life or an ancestor of mine or myself got killed by lightning. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe in a genetic passing down of trauma. I think that's pretty fairly scientifically accurate. I know they do studies with mice and rats that prove that trauma is passed down from the mother through the children. Yeah, they'll put the mother on hot plates. And they run across hot plates and they burn their feet,
Oh,
and
no.
then yeah, or burn or I don't know exactly
Sure.
like if they're like, but they traumatize the mother through a textural. So the texture of the thing that they run across hurts their feet.
Oh,
Then they have babies, and then the babies will run across this same particular texture, but they will be adverse to it, even though there's no physical trauma attached to it.
gotcha.
The idea is that they've been able to pass down the trauma from the mother who experienced something to her offspring.
Wow.
And I think that is very possible. And I think that's where probably a lot of our fears are passed down
Yeah,
from.
we're still mapping out our DNA. It's not fully mapped.
It's a survival thing. Think of the caveman Og in your family tree, and he is in a major thunder or lightning storm, and he sees the destruction that it can cause, and they're going for cover. They don't understand it. I think it's
It
very
is.
possible. That's how a lot of our fears are just naturally
think-
embedded in us.
Well, it's as good as guess as any because I didn't ask for it.
Yeah, and again, I love it. I experienced some thunder and lightning storms on my trip down south.
All right, what's the next one? Number 5.
The Great Wall of China, not so visible from space after all. The idea that the Great Wall of China is the only human-made structure visible from space. It might sound impressive, but I'm here to set the record straight. It's not accurate. As magnificent and extensive as the Great Wall is, it's just too thin to be spotted from the orbit of our planet. Think about trying to see a single strand of hair from a few feet away. That's already quite challenging. Now, imagine that hair being thousands of miles away. That's pretty much what an astronaut would face when attempting to spot the Great Wall from space. So, the next time you come across someone confidently claiming the Great Wall is visible from space, you'll know better. This enduring misconception is yet another example of how false ideas can become deeply ingrained in our collective knowledge.
Yeah, this one is definitely I'm guilty of. We've
Yeah,
heard
for
it,
sure.
and I've never. You talked earlier about fact checking. What do you say? Critical thinking. When you critical think something, this can't be right.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm guilty of with a lot of these. Is you hear these tribal euphemisms or passed downisms or whatever it is, it would just think, oh yeah, that's just the way it is. We hear that all the time. Everyone listening to this episode has heard. You could see, and I would challenge anyone. Okay, we'll prove it. And that I don't know why we thought otherwise. Look how big the world is. When you look at the world, when they do you see the world from our fake NASA photos. When you see
The clouds Photoshop,
right, we're
copy
not-
and paste it all. Right,
right,
right.
if you like our conspiracy theory episodes, go check out our flat Earth episodes. We've done other ones. All right, but when you see pictures from space, there's no way you could tell there's any. The wall's not that big. There's
See,
no. You can't even see the Mississippi River from space in that sense. There's no way to make out that much. You see the oceans, you see the land, but can you make out rivers?
it's just a wives' tale that I just
But I
assumed
believed it.
the Great Wall of China. I've never seen it myself in person. I've just seen videos or pictures, and I just assumed that this thing is so big that yeah, it would be visible from space.
I don't know what point becomes invisible. 5,000 feet in the air, 10,000 feet in the air. At some point, yes, it has to, because the world, if you go far enough, will become invisible. Like the planet keep going. So at some point, so at some point, the Great Wall of China will also become invisible. So what is space? We're talking about orbiting level of space. Are we talking near the ozone layer? I don't know. But I think the idea is in general, once you go up pretty high, I like that idea. You hold out a strand of hair. That's the wall. How high is space when you say you can see it from space? What is the distance of space?
This kind of makes sense when you see people do the hot air balloons and they go like really high.
Yep.
It doesn't take actually that much for you to really go, I don't see much. You don't see much definition.
So where does space begin? For the purpose of space flight, some would say at the Kármán line. That's Karman line, currently defined as an altitude of 100 kilometers or 60 miles. We're saying you can see it from space. So we say that. I think when we say and hear that, critically thinking, we're talking about, oh, it's stupid. Why would anyone believe that? We don't. We just believed it to be true. There's some sort of blip on the Earth that we just can see from space. But when you're 60 kilometers in the air, there's no way you can see the wall of China. 60 kilometers away, there's no way.
Yeah, but 100 kilometers isn't that?
Or 60 miles and 100 kilometers? That's far. That's a far distance. You're not seeing anything 100 kilometers away.
What's interesting, not to go back
anyways.
to the Grand Canyon rim to rim experience, but it was 40 kilometers across. I hiked 40 kilometers. When you stand on one rim and look across to the other rim, it's like, I don't even know where I start. I go, I know somewhere over there's the North Rim. There's no indication or no, like, I can't see the North Rim Lodge. You know what I mean? Like, it just looks like a big flat plateau way out in the distance. And so, yeah, 100. Yeah, your ability to define something from 100 kilometers away would really start to diminish.
So that's a good question for Christian about Google Earth itself. So the question is, what height is Google Earth images taken from? 450 kilometers.
So maybe a thing to do is find Google Earth pictures of the Great Wall of China. And I don't know if you can do this with Google Earth. And then, when you zoom in,
that's the problem.
Zoom out.
In.
So the resolution.
That's right. So it's a combination of, yes, we know that there's street maps and Google. You can zoom in the train.
But I just wonder what zoom in.
That's what I'm getting. What's
level,
the height? That's the height we're talking about.
Would you see it? Would you go, right. I see it.
You're not seeing the Great Wall of China at 450 kilometers, but
no.
Yes, with the images that those satellites take, they're so good at capturing. You could look at your own home, for example, from Google Earth, but just because you can see your home, that doesn't mean you can see your home from space. It was captured from space, but you're zooming in on the capture.
But I wonder at what zoom in level this represents 100 kilometers.
Exactly. And I don't know that, but some NASA scientist who's listening to our show could tell us. Okay, good stuff. This one, I'm extremely guilty of this one. This one is one where if I use critical thinking, I should know better, and maybe a less or a more pompous or conceited person might not reveal their ignorance, but I'm not afraid to do that. I have no shame. Okay, camel humps. If you were to ask me a week ago what's inside a camel hump, I would tell you it's water.
What?
Yeah. Do you know that it wasn't water?
It's fat. But it's fat, right? And it's the breakdown of fat that creates water.
I'm an idiot.
That hydrates the camel.
I thought it was like a canteen.
Yeah,
they would so those distinctive humps, dear listeners, on a camel's back have often led people like me to believe that they're, because I was told this. I didn't Google this. I was told this as a kid. I was taught this. It's not my fault. It wasn't like I came up with this.
Do you believe Santa Claus is real?
Yes.
Come on.
No, but this is like a reasonable thing to hear. Like we're talking about deserts, right? The camel's in a desert. There's no rainfall.
Yeah.
He's got to carry his water around with him. It makes sense. This is a canteen. So camels are renowned for their ability to endure the harsh conditions of the desert, the hot ones, not the cold ones, and travel long distances without a drink. There you go. However, it's time to dispel that misconception, Ryan. The truth is, camel humps aren't water storage tanks, they're actually filled with fatty tissue. This fat serves as a source of energy when food and water become scarce, helping the camel survive during its extended journeys through the desert. When a camel finally does get a chance to hydrate, they gulp down as much as 40 gallons or 150 liters of water in one go. However, this water doesn't go to their humps, it's stored in their bloodstream. So while camels are undeniably incredible survivors in the desert, it's not because of their toting around portable water canteens on their backs. The reality is even more fascinating. Their humps are like energy reserves ready to be tapped into when the going gets tough. Even if someone says, hey, Ryan, it's not water, what is it? I would then say it's probably just bone. I didn't even consider that it's fatty tissue. I thought it was just like a hard bone. I thought it was like a canteen they siphon from inside their innards. But close, it's fatty tissue they draw from. And
Yeah,
they just
so
drink
it's
a
a
lot of water.
breakdown. If you or I were to lose fat tissue, like our fat, part of the byproducts of breaking down fat is water. Let's say you were to go through a desert excursion yourself, having a little bit of extra fat on your body would be helpful because as you break down your fat,
Right.
you would probably feel thirsty, but your body would be slightly hydrated through that process. And that's what's happening with camels.
All right. Well, I'm guilty. I'm guilty.
That's
So that
awesome.
wouldn't be my
I like
worst pick.
that.
So, meaning because I'm guilty of believing this to be true. So I don't. Maybe that would be a worst pick for you. No, don't tell me. But that could be a worst pick for you because you're like, I can't believe people thought that's our whole.
At some point, I learned about it, and then I'm just
I
like, "Oh
just
yeah, that makes
I
sense."
just never reinvent. It's one of those things that just
Yeah,
I
you
heard as
just
a kid, and I never looked back. I never wondered. In all those years of seeing camels in movies and stuff, I just thought that was water bouncing around there. I mean, I think I just saw like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom recently with the kids last summer. And there's camels in that film. I probably would have told the kids that's water in there, kids. All right, what's number 3?
Okay, so fortune cookies, not a Chinese invention. Have you ever wrapped up a meal at a Chinese restaurant, cracking open a fortune cookie and pondering the message inside? It's a fun tradition, but here's the twist. Fortune cookies aren't actually Chinese in origin. Their roots can be traced back to Japan and San Francisco. The fortune cookies we enjoy today, complete with those hidden messages, got their start in early 20th century San Francisco. They were created by Makoto Hagiwara,
Yeah.
Japanese immigrant in the Japanese tea garden. Interestingly, a similar type of cookie with messages inside was already in Japan as far back as the 19th century. While fortune cookies have become a familiar sight in American Chinese restaurants, they aren't an authentic part of the traditional Chinese cuisine. So the next time you snap open one and read your fortune, remember that these cookies are a blend of American innovation and Japanese tradition. I had no idea.
No, I didn't know either. I can see why people would be fooled by this. We call them Chinese fortune cookies. If you were to ask anyone on the street what country created the
The
fortune cookie,
fortune.
I think 99 out of 100 people would say China. And then there might be that one nerd who goes, wow, it so happens it was a Japanese immigrant who lived in San Francisco. Okay, good for you.
Do Japanese restaurants provide Japanese fortune? I don't know.
I
I mean,
think
I
it's
don't.
common with the Chinese
Chinese
food. I think
restaurants?
Chinese foods are, and now fortune cookies suck. Have you seen them recently?
No.
They're not fortune anymore. They're more like platitudes, like
Oh,
reach for the sky or
oh,
follow your dreams. Smile and the world will smile with you. That's not fortune. Remember we used to read our fortune cookies as kids and
oh yeah, of course.
we loved it. There's always like real fortune and
Yeah,
misfortune, I believe. I think some of them were misfortune cookies. I think some of them were
sure.
bad news. But now they're just all bland. Because I think I remember correctly. Let me know in the audience here, folks who are listening. Do you remember the old ones? You could have misfortune. It was a risk to open the cookie. Now
Yeah, you
it's
had
like,
no idea what you're gonna get.
that's right. Now it's, oh, you're gonna do it, kiddo.
Everybody, yeah, it's all participation. The participation badge. Everybody wins.
Thanks, cookie. Yeah. Anyways, all right, good old fortune cookies. Some could be pretty good, some could be pretty bad as far as the taste goes. But I remember loving the fortune cookie as a kid. I
Oh,
thought it
for
was the
sure. I do too. It's like the dessert of the day.
Let's go. Next one. Number 2. That's me. Describe a Viking helmet for me.
Yeah, it's going to be a metal, something like a extended helmet coming maybe down a little bit down around the cheekbones. There might be a middle bridge to protect the bridge of the nose, and probably going to have some horns attached to it.
That's right, horns. That's right, you got it, the horns. Now, when you think of a Viking, just like Jason did at the top of his head, the first image that pops in your head, probably a fierce warrior with a helmet adorned with horns, right? It's time to rethink that picture. Contrary to their popular portrayal in today's media, Vikings never actually wore helmets with horns. This widely recognized image is something that emerged during the Victorian era. The notion of Vikings sporting horned helmets was largely popularized by the romanticized artistic representations from the 19th century. But here's the truth. There's no historical evidence to suggest the Vikings ever wore such headgear. In fact, again, critical thinking, which you just don't do.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been practical at all. Imagine trying to steer a ship or engage in battle with those cumbersome horns on your head. So while the idea of Vikings with horned helmets might work well for theater or comic book art, it's a far cry from historical accuracy. It serves as a reminder of how easily misconceptions could take root in our collective imagination.
Not really critically thinking about this. When you ask me the question, then I start overthinking. I start to be critical about, okay, would be an actual Viking helmet. I can't imagine them spending time putting horns on something
It's a lot
that's
of work.
designed.
It's a lot of animals.
There's a lot of extra work. And then what horns are they? And where are they getting these animals to slaughter? I guess they're slaughtering animals to eat them, but
I think they're cattle horns. I think that's what they might be. Like,
could you imagine Vikings spending time
screwing in horns
after the slaughter, putting somehow adhering horns to their helmets? Now, the only reason they might do that is try to look intimidating to another enemy, right? Like, look at all these guys and they got these like massive horns, and that looks pretty intimidating and scary. I can envision that being part of the thinking for a Viking, but I'm sure they were just more practical.
Yeah. I didn't even consider that it was just artistic liberties by artists in the Victorian era.
Art depictions do create a story that people will adhere to.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that gets passed on.
It's like the Adam and Eve, the fruit that was
exactly
artistic.
Yeah, artistic. Yeah.
And it becomes fact almost through art. Okay, Jay, you got the last one.
Cleopatra. When you hear the name Cleopatra, you probably picture an Egyptian queen. It's time to adjust that image a bit. Cleopatra, one of history's most famous women, wasn't actually Egyptian. Her family tree traces back to Greek Macedonia. Cleopatra belonged to the Ptolemaic dynasty, and they were originally of Greek Macedonian origin. This dynasty took control in Egypt after Alexander the Great passed away. While Cleopatra was born in Egypt and was the first of her dynasty to learn the Egyptian language, her family didn't hail from Egypt in the beginning. Even though Cleopatra holds a significant place in Egyptian history, she wasn't of Egyptian descent. She was a Greek Macedonian ruling over Egypt. It's a fascinating twist that challenges our common perception of this legendary queen.
Yeah, this is.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I just thought she was Egyptian. Yeah, she wasn't by blood at all. Greek Macedonian. So there you go. Apparently, she wasn't as attractive as Elizabeth Taylor.
I didn't want to let my imagination run wild. And
do you ever see that movie?
She was even. No, I haven't.
It's a bit of a slog to get through, but it's a fascinating picture to watch, knowing the behind the scenes drama and the studio went bankrupt, and it's almost a embarrassment of too much at the screen, but that's what makes it fascinating to watch. Is because it got made, it's there, it's available. Of course, she's great in it, but I shouldn't say it's too much of a slog. But it's almost like a mini series. I watched it like in half-hour chunks.
I'm not sure what streaming service. There is a series out depicting Cleopatra. I'm not sure if you've heard
I think
of it.
It got.
I don't know if it's
polls.
Oh, did it? I have no idea. I saw maybe like just the trailers of it, or maybe 5 minutes.
Could be wrong. It's on Netflix or something like that. Am I remembering? So there was like a Cleopatra. I think they were mad about the casting or something. I just remember some sort of negative headline about it.
Oh, okay. I'm wondering how accurate that series is, if it's just dramatized or if they were trying to do an accurate representation of who Cleopatra really was. Reading this, I'm hoping that's accurate, but I'm guessing it is, like that she was of Greek descent, that her family's not originally from Egypt. I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
No idea.
No idea. I did not know. Okay. I have my pick, but I just want to say again before I read quickly what the headlines were for our categories. I'm going to make mine. Ryan, you should have known better. At some degree, had you used any kind of critical thinking throughout your life, you should have known better. So the worst offender. This is the worst offender. So these are 10 of some of the most common misconceptions people have carried and maybe through their own critical thinking have debunked on their own, but at some point they probably believed were true. That's the easiest way to think of this one. Okay, deserts, they're not always hot spots. For example, Antarctica is a desert. Diamonds, they're not as rare as you think. The forbidden fruit was not an apple. Cold weather is not the actual cause of colds. Lightning is a repeat offender. It hits things over and over again all the time. The Great Wall of China is not visible from space. Camel humps, they're fat reserves, not water tanks. The fortune cookie is not a Chinese invention, it's Japanese from San Francisco. Vikings have horn-free helmets. And lastly, Cleopatra is a Greek Macedonian queen. All right, Jay, I'll go first because you're our returning host, and I'll let you tie it up. But I'm going to go with, I had two that were, I should have known better. I will say it's easy to be guilty with the Great Wall of China. I can see why people would think that it's one of the 7 wonders of the world, is it not? And but I like the analogy of you hold out a piece of hair or even a thread or a piece of yarn and you start walking away just 10 feet, you won't be able to see it anymore, or 20 feet. I don't know why we thought the Wall of China would be any different. It's the same type of space and depth, like 100 kilometers in the air. Why would you be able to see this thread? It doesn't make sense. But I am a moron regarding the water and the humps. I should have used some sort of critical thinking, and I just didn't. Or if I ever knew this, I'd forgotten it and stuck to the false information. So that's the worst offender on my part. I should have known better with some sort of critical thinking. I should have known better. All right, Jay.
So I have two. The apple for the Adam and Eve one, I had never really even thought or cared to think of what that may or may not be. I always viewed it as a symbolic gesture than an actual true event. And again, maybe an artistic expression that was passed down from generations and generations of people to present the idea of the fruit. So that's not one in my list because I never thought anything of it. But I'm going to say the Great Wall of China
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
because I just go, okay, it must be really big. I've never seen it with my own eyes up close and personal. And I just assumed what you hear is that, oh, it's so big. You see it from, that's how big it is. You see it from space. That's just something that has been repeated forever and never really thought to think differently of it. So that's my pick, is the Great Wall of China.
So Donald's talking about the diamonds. He goes, we get overcharged for diamonds because of their supposed rarity.
Right.
In that sense, they're the worst offender. He's saying they are the worst offender.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is misinformation that affects our wallets. That's fair. Yeah, money. That's right. It's a bad offender because it's one thing to, yeah, you're right, Donald, in the sense, me thinking there's water in a camel, and the camel's hump, my life goes on. It's not affected. But if I'm trying to buy a diamond ring for my fiance or wife and I'm out thousands of dollars for a fake rarity or man-made value, yeah, it hurts us more. So that's good for a worst offender. I like that, Donald.
Yeah, that's a really
good way
of
of
viewing
putting that. Now, it's called Queen Cleopatra. It's a Netflix documentary. It's a docudrama documentary. So it's mixed with narration and acting. I've never seen a rating like this, Jay. It's rated 1.1 out of 10.
Yeah.
So this is on IMDb, 82,000 votes with an average score of 1.1.
Wow. I wonder what the issue is. Obviously, they're totally misrepresenting Cleopatra.
Yeah, this is the featured review from a user. It says, this movie is nothing but a shoddy, inaccurate joke of a movie. There's nothing remotely historical or biographical about it whatsoever. Someone just wanted to interject their social justice view of history into their own version and try to pass it off as if it were remotely true. It's full of suppositions, guesses, and assumptions instead of historical fact. Aside from that, it's extremely dull and boring. They really should leave the history to actual academics instead of trying to continually push their leftist narrative via these boorish propaganda films that no one has asked for in the first place. It got the top votes. This review got the top votes on IMDb, and 82,000 people feel the same way. Yeah.
So you're watching a docudrama, you're hoping that there's some historical, but then we're so bombarded with the narratives
Yes. And I
that
like that the
it
public is saying
ruins
enough.
everything. Yeah,
I'm
we
I'm
all
glad the
are.
public's saying that that's enough. Let's stop it. Yeah.
Because you can still be entertained and historically accurate. You can do both.
For contrast, another documentary, totally opposite, but there was the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
No, I just actually it's funny. I just saw the little screenshot of it or whatever yesterday.
Okay, so it has a rating from users. Do you want to guess?
I'm going to say 7.8.
Close, 8. That's 18,000. So there you go. So here's a modern day, of course, celebrity, but the idea that this one gets
they want
8
accuracy.
out of 10. That's right. Yeah. So yeah.
Regardless of where you stand on things, I'll just leave it at that. They just want accuracy, accurate information, and people know enough.
Arnold is a divisive person in some
Yes,
ways.
he is. Yeah,
but the fact that the documentary got 8 out of 10 tells you that 18,000 people thought this was a very good, well done documentary, no matter where you stand on with him. Yeah.
So do they have whatever you're looking at? Do they have the Elizabeth Taylor Cleopatra movie? I wonder what that one has.
Okay, I'm gonna guess. It has a 6.7. What do you think? Think it might be higher?
Yeah, just because of the nostalgia effect of it. I'm gonna say 7.5.
7.
Oh,
I said 6.8.
So Price is Right rule. Price is Right rule. Oh no,
I
still.
hate that. Yeah, you know what? I hate it when people do that. Why does the Price is Right get the monopoly on? Guess like I was still closer by 0.2.
You were, yes. As soon as I was saying that, I was like, "Oh, you won, anyways."
Yeah, I know. It's anyways. She looks great if you look at the trailer. She looks fantastic. But yeah, 7 out of 10. That's not bad. That's 36,000 votes. So there you go. That's probably a fair. But I think they should make a documentary about the filmmaking. I think that would be quite interesting.
Is the name of that movie
Cleopatra? That's right. 1963. Yeah. 60 years ago. Wow. And she looks great. If you look at her, she looks fantastic. So thank you to those who joined us live. We appreciate that. And if you want to join us live, join our socials. It's all on every show note, the Discord channel where I announce when we're going to go live. And at the very least, that's what it's for. You can get the announcement when we go live. Send us an email. We haven't got an email in a long time. The email is in our show notes as well. Send us an email. But remember, in front of every silver lining, there's a cloud. And today for Ryan, it was water in the camel's hump. And for Jason, it was the Great Wall of China.
Gamma Gator Productions.